You're watching France24 and it's time now for our daily look at the international press. Eve Irving joins me in the studio. Good morning, Eve. Let's start with Cuba, and President Bush has been rather outspoken.
Well, absolutely. Yesterday, US President George Bush called on the international community to work with him to free Cuba, which he described as a tropical gulag and a police state where neighbours spy on each other. So we took a look at the Cuban papers this morning in Grama, a paper that is fairly loyal to Fidel Castro. It says Cubans should react with courage and serenity to Bush's statements. It goes on to quote the Minister of Foreign Affairs in Cuba that says that Bush is delirious and very badly advised by dinosaurs in Miami. He says that the US wants to make Cuba poorer, just like it's doing in Iraq, where it is killing scores of innocent civilians. Then the paper goes on to propose 12 policy points to George Bush where he can improve his politics. These include respecting the independence of Cuba, closing the torture centre that is Guantanamo, they say, and putting a stop to using politics of aggression and threatening.
Now, what about the timing of these remarks, though? That's not an accident, is it?
Absolutely. The International Herald Tribune runs its headline saying that the attack is oddly timed. It quotes Cuban specialists that say the president's analysis is outdated and part of a policy that is aimed at isolating Cuba, but in fact leaves the United States very much out in the cold. The administration officials, the papers say that the remarks were aimed at Cubans in Cuba, and the statement was heard on radio there, but the paper also notes that it was for Cuban Americas, which make up a very strong voting bloc in Florida, and on conservatives in general who like to oppose Fidel Castro.
Right. Well, Eve, moving on, we've all done it, of course, used the internet site Google Earth to zoom in on our own little house in our own little neighbourhood from a global perspective, but somehow that is backfiring in Israel.
Absolutely. As The Guardian in Britain notes today on their front page, they've heard that Palestinian militants are using Google Earth to look down on towns in Israel to have better target practice.
Yikes.
So they're not the first. I mean, British officials in January said that the militants sympathetic to Al-Qaeda were using it in Iraq, and as far as I know, there are countries such as the US that have asked Google Earth to scramble their military bases. Google Earth will not comment as yet as if Israel has asked for their country to be scrambled or not. But there
Goodness me. Well, let's yes. I don't think it's too dangerous in Paris, so I found my flat on Google Earth.
Me too,
so
I have to say. I have it as my
right. Now, France has gone eco-crazy, Eve, in the past 48 hours, saving the planet, or at least France, from global catastrophe, thanks to a summit going on here. But Le Figaro is reporting on a step backwards.
Absolutely, you can see it there. The UNESCO is sending out an SOS. It's threatening to take some of its World Heritage sites off the list. One of them is Dresden, which you see photographed here. If they go ahead with a 4-lane bridge, they could be striked off the prestigious list, as could St. Petersburg if it goes ahead with a 300-metre tower. Other islands such as the Galapagos Islands are under pressure because of mass tourism and uncontrolled building and development. So yeah.
So Le Figaro always saying, you know, watch out, scrub up your buildings too.
Absolutely. It's not something you get forever. You know, you got to keep it up, got to keep it pretty, or the title could be taken away.
Goodness me, fierce stuff, just like her Miss World, in fact. Well, thank you very much indeed, Eve Irving, for that review of the papers. Stay tuned to France24.